Greetings and welcome to Old Drunken Discography, where old friends and fans come together to BS, argue, occasionally agree, and discuss a musical artist. Some upcoming artists we are covering are The Doors and the Smashing Pumpkins, finally. And then our Halloween month kicks off starting with the Misfits. We also are re-recording Nirvana, which was our first band for our special 100th episode. We'll have the past guest and the new guest, our host, all coming together to waste a
To
Tuesday night.
go back over it. You guys were way wrong on that first episode.
If those interest you, please like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. Today's artist, though, is Tori Amos. We will be covering the 13 studio albums, not including Strange Little Girls, the cover album, Gold Dust, the re-recordings, and the Christmas album. With me today, he's a happy phantom. Tim.
Hello.
She believes in peace, bitch. Rose.
And he's a cornflake girl. That's Jason.
No,
Ah,
a raisin girl. A raisin girl.
never was a cornflake
Okay.
girl.
No, you don't want to be a cornflake girl.
That's true.
Never was a cornflake girl.
All right. A Facebook shout out to the entire Tori Amos and fans Facebook group. Seriously, the nicest Facebook group I'm in, and I'm in a lot of musical artist Facebook groups. And that's where we met our special guest today, Rose. So I guess we will discuss how we got into Tori Amos and our relationship with Tori. Tim, do you want to start?
I can, sure.
Go
Um,
ahead.
I would have been in middle school when her career started. And when I was in middle school, all I cared about was reading music magazines. So I definitely was aware of her from the beginning. And then as I got older and met girlfriends who were really into the music, I heard a few albums here and there. And but beyond that, uh, never like really listened. So new discography for me this week.
Gonna be fun. What about you, Rose? How did you find Tori?
What was it, 92 when Crucify came out and on MTV? And there's this redhead doing something with a piano that I hadn't heard. I'm classically trained on the piano, so it was, it was like this marriage of an instrument I was playing all these old dead guys on, and religion, which was just a fascinating subject for me, being raised in a religious household. So those two together. And then in 96, I met my best friend who had just seen her in concert. And well, it was all over from there. And I've been a huge fan ever since. Saw my 35th concert with her a week and a half ago. Yeah.
So we got the right special guest with us tonight.
Well,
Yes,
I'm not, I've got friends who've seen her like 100 times plus,
that's
300
awesome.
times. Yeah.
At that we support no matter who the artist is. That's
Yeah.
awesome. What
So
about you, Jason?
I'm trying to remember what year it was. What year did that Teen Spirit
92.
cover? I was a big Nirvana fan, and it was like ninth, 10th grade. Some girl like came up to me. We knew each other a little bit, but she like said, "Oh, you gotta listen to this. You gotta listen to this." And it was this cover, "Smells Like Teen Spirit." At the time, I was like, well, "This is awful. She's ruined this. Like, I don't care about. I don't know any of this." Blah. And then a couple years later, I got a girlfriend. She was into Tori and gave me a mixtape and had Boys for Pele on it. And then that's where I became a fan. Then I heard the Teen Spirit version, and holy crap, is it really good? So I followed her all the way up to Abnormally Attracted to Sin was the last album I'd heard. And then we were kind of turned off of Tori after that. So everything after that was new to me for this.
Awesome.
So I guess we'll let our special guest start us off. What is your least favorite Tori Amos
Well,
record?
when I went through ranking, I think I went, I had my qualifications were albums that, first of all, that spoke to me musically, that challenged me a little bit musically, and also how likely was I willing to put it on. So my least favorite of, I mean, a bunch of really good albums is Unrepentant Geraldines.
Ooh.
And I mean, there's some really great songs on that. And it was a nice, like, it was her return to form after, she did Night of Hunters, which was classically based, Midwinter Graces, which was classically based, the Gold Dust album, and then she did a musical. And so this was kind of her coming back after 3 years of not having, oh, well, more of not having done something rock based. But yeah, there's some really great songs on there. I think my favorite song on that album has to be um, Weatherman, which, and I'm not a ballad person. Like, Tori's the aberration in
Right?
me.
No.
But she's like, she writes a lot of ballads, and I think it's really interesting. She's not, that's not my, you know, that she's, I joke that I like music that's for straight white guys. And so Tori is like this way out there, but I'm way into it because she challenges me musically. And I think that's what I really like. The other song that's really great on this album is the Unrepentant Geraldine's song because of what it goes through, like all the different
Okay.
movements. But yeah, yeah, that's the album I'm least likely to put on.
All right. I'll get to that one. That one was an interesting one.
Mhm.
Tim, what's your number 13?
Well, I'm gonna keep that going. My 13th was Unrepentant Geraldine. I am not a classically trained pianist, but I know how to make a major chord shape and augment it and all that good stuff. Um, so, yeah, musically, like this whole discography was very challenging, and um, love the arrangements like throughout. And then just kind of thinking about it because I had a real tough time, like at both ends of this thing. Even the middle is going to be tough. Like I'm going to throw that out there. I'm going to save my rankings final edition for later. This might change. But yeah, I think out of all of them, this was the one I found. um, I don't want to say the blandest, because there is like really good songwriting going on, really good arrangements going on. The production is great on all of these as well. You can tell that major label money was behind a lot of it. Um, but yeah, it's I don't know. It just there was nothing there that grabbed me as much as the other albums, I would say.
Man, y'all gonna make
First listen.
y'all gonna make me the bad guy. I see y'all. All right, well my my number 13 is Night of Hunters. This was my first like new Tory for this listen, and it's a really pretty album, and it's interesting, but the story and the variations on the classical song just wasn't my thing. My highlights were Shattering Sea, Cactus Practice, had a fun melody. Your Ghost was really pretty, and I love Seven Sisters into Carrie. It's a super pretty, soft album with a little of my what what my wife and I would call batshit Tory, which is a compliment mixed in. Overall, I didn't hate it, just not the Tory I would reach for. I definitely need more time
Mhm.
with it. I didn't take much notes on that one.
That's fair. I think that's fair.
We've learned doing this show that it's really hard to listen to so many albums in 1 week and make
Yeah, especially when they're good. Because a lot of these, I'll talk about Night of Hunters a little later, are some that I definitely want to go back and revisit. So,
I'd say
Yeah.
go back to Unrepentant. That's the only one I went back and listened to it multiple times
Oh wow.
this week. Um
Well, I have a
T-
feeling I'll be revisiting all of these multiple times, so and more.
Now, on the Unrepentant Geraldine's tour, which was 2014, she was doing um, covers with backing tracks. So it was, however many songs she was doing, and then she had a two cover song set. And some of those covers are absolutely magnificent, where she's just adding a beat into the background and doing mashups. She does Metallica, um, a couple of Madonna covers, a Moby cover. She did a bunch of Depeche Mode, really primo covers. I think those were my favorite covers that she's ever done, was
Wow.
live.
Yeah. Okay.
which Metallica did she do?
Nothing Else Matters. She gets into her deep voice in that one, and she does Extreme Ways by Moby. And when she sings in that lower register, it's amazing. She rarely does it.
Yeah, I found that to be my favorite voice as well. That and then musically, I like when she gets really weird.
Yes.
Like every album has the Tori and a piano ballad or four, and I would imagine that's what you want because that's really all you need.
Hmm.
But yeah, as we get into it, there's a lot
Yeah.
of really cool experimentation going on a lot
Oh,
of
yeah.
these.
All right. Tim, what's your number 12?
My number 12 is going to be Abnormally Attracted to Sin. Um, yeah, again, it's good. But and it could have been at this point, fatigue might have been setting in. Um, but nothing grabbed me again. Again, I'm going to go back and listen to it, of course. Um, 'Cause, yeah, I did. I just found like especially on a discography this large, you really can start seeing the songwriting style, I guess is what I'm
Mhm.
going for. And, she really has her own voice, and that carries throughout all of these albums. And so if you're going to like one, I don't see where you wouldn't like another
Mm.
because they're all like, songwriting wise, they're all of the same caliber, you know?
Mhm.
And then, yeah, they're all very good albums. But yeah, this one just didn't. It was also one of the ones when I actually had to sit down and rank a list. There's always those couple spots that you're like, I don't know what to put there. And so you just kind of wait till you see what's not been put in a place yet. And this was definitely one of those as well. It's a good album.
All right. That's actually my number 12 too.
Oh,
And I thought I'd have nothing but hot takes, not knowing.
It's it has a lot of great lyrics, but it just didn't do it for me. This was the last Tory album that I had heard back in the day, and I wasn't really a fan of it. Welcome to England is good. Strong Black Vine, Not Dying for Me or Today, Not Dying Today are fine. Maybe California was ahead of its time or right
mm.
on time. Whatever. That song's fantastic. But then the album kind of lulls for me. I think it's too long. Mary Jane was great. The whole like. Then he said, "Mom, I want to formulate, discover the realms of the unknown with Mary Jane." She gets a little swing beat going. It's good.
Yeah.
Fast Horse is decent, and Ophelia is amazing and should have been the closer. Overall, it just
Mm.
doesn't keep my attention very much. So,
Wow. I think it's a perfectly sequenced album for me, but I'll get there.
Okay.
Now,
oh,
when you go back
Ready
and
with
listen, she did there's visualettes for each one. So there's a visual story that goes with each song,
oh, see, I missed that.
which are they're worth watching. Do they add to it? I don't know, maybe. But was speaking ahead of her time, and then, she does that in 2009, and then Beyonce went and did that in whatever with Lemonade. I mean, certainly Tori's not the first person to have done that with her music, but yeah. So my number 12 is The Beekeeper. And the biggest highlight for me on this album is Witness. I absolutely love Witness. and because it's kind of a grandiose song with really fast-paced lyrics in it. But I think, there's songs like General Joy, and then the song that people love to hate, which is Ireland, which, and I get why people like to hate it. And Tori's really, one of her, uh, one of the things she does when she writes a piece of music is she puts something kind of dark subject matter and puts it in like a kind of happy tune. And so that's what, she's name checking Magda, who, I don't know if you know the story of Magda, but she's like an Irish story, and she's races these men on a battlefield, but she's pregnant, so she stops, gives birth, wins the race, and so she's kind of this intense figure. And then the other song that I think is an absolute standout, which is actually the bonus track from this album, which is Garlands. And she just played it for me in Albuquerque when I requested it. And it's just a really beautiful piece of music, I think. But yeah, I mean, and I do really like this album. This is her like I'm a Mom album, but then it's also got cars and guitars on it, which I always wonder what's the cha thing like. What goes in, like I just imagine her in the studio. Her husband is her recording engineer, and if, like, what's the conversation there? I don't think it's done yet. Let's add this little oddball part onto it.
Sure. Yeah.
But was again still a good turnout with some really interesting compositions on it.
Mm-mm. I hate to follow that because my next one's going to be the Beekeeper
Well,
for all the different reasons. This is the first Tori album that I'd heard that didn't really grab me. Like back in the day, it was like I didn't understand the whole. I mean, I get the bee garden. It just wasn't really my thing. I didn't like Parasol, but I love the Power of Orange Knickers. Not a fan of the background vocals though. I think they're turned up kind of loud. The whole album's production like is weird to me. Like it sounds different. Jamaica Inn is okay. Baron's Suburbia is fine. Cars and Guitars is probably the best song on here. It's so good. Besides Knickers, Cars, Martha's Foolish Ginger, and Goodbye Pieces, the rest just didn't really ring with me. Yeah, it was this first one that just we were kind of eh, at the time, especially after Scarlet's Walk.
yeah, it's a song. It's an album about being a mother
Yeah,
and
we were
losing a
like,
mom.
yeah.
So it's really saccharine, I think.
I could see that. I could see that for sure. Um, yeah.
All right, what's your number 11, Rose?
Oh, my number 11 is Ocean to Ocean,
Damn it.
and yeah, but I mean, now from here on out, we're into albums that I would totally put on and listen to like on my way to work. So, and I put Ocean to Ocean there because they're just other albums that are just a lot stronger for me. I mean, on look, I have one of the songs tattooed on my wrist. So I Edition of Light Divided is absolute standout for me. Speaking with Trees, um, Spies, I really love Spies. I think what John Evans did with the bass on Spies was really spectacular. Love that song. Love Ocean to Ocean, and um, even I love Ocean to Ocean live because she did these like 3 to 5 minute intro jams on that song. Um, Flowers Burn to Gold just breaks my heart. I lost my father last year, so it's a heartbreaking song because it's about the loss of her mother. Metal Waterwood is fantastic, and 29 Years is really nice closure in terms of her story. And but the other songs are kind of like me, meh. But yeah, I really do like it as an album, and it was nice to hear. This is the album that John Evans and what's his name? on drums came back for. I can't remember his name.
Oh, Matt Chamberlain.
Matt Chamberlain, thank you. I was thinking Matt, but I was like, no, not Matt Sorum. But they hadn't been on the album since Abnormally Attracted to Sin, so it was nice to have them back on the albums. And their take.
And that's her live band too, correct?
She had a different drummer this tour because
Okay.
Ash Sowen was the drummer this tour because Matt was out with Brandy Carlisle. But I loved what Ash Sowen did. So
Sure. Okay. Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
So my number 11, just to backtrack just a little bit, I have The Beekeeper at number 11. This was one I really like the concept of it, but just musically it's a little long, and it's tough to keep up with. And yeah, throwing all these up, you gotta place them somewhere. But I did really enjoy it, and I do think not being a mother myself, but just thinking that bees are awesome. I really dug the concept of it, and the sound of the album is really. I don't know. I'll go back and see if I can notice anything weird, but it sounded fine to me when I ran through it. So I did like it, and I will be revisiting it again. But I think as we get deeper into this list, I think the albums do get more and more listenable.
I did like it a lot more this past week when I listened to it. This is the first time I'd listened to it in years because I never go back to this album, but I went back for it for this, and it had more tracks on it that I liked that I didn't remember. So it's a grower. All right.
Yeah.
Well, it's about bees, so it should be.
All right, Rose, what is your next one?
So my next one, again, just simply because they've got to go somewhere, is Under the Pink. But I really do love Under the Pink. And this was after Little Earthquakes. My best friend bought me Under the Pink and Boys for Pele just to catch me up. And so God really spoke to me a lot past the mission. The Wrong Band is fun. And Yes Anastasia, which Yes Anastasia is written like, it's just, he pressed record and she's just playing. So it's kind of like a stream of consciousness song. But I also have to give a mention, two songs I have to mention that are B-sides for this. Honey, which she just says again and again should have been on the album. And I absolutely love Honey. And then she does a cover of If 6 Was 9. And I think that's what hooked me because I'm a big fan of Jimi Hendrix. And hearing her do If 6 Was 9, I just was like, wow, this is pretty damn incredible. But yeah, and these days, Bells for Her really speaks to me as a song, especially when she does it live. Absolutely love that song live.
Cool. Have you heard the Bootsy Collins cover of If 6 Was 9?
No, I haven't.
It's a completely different direction, but it shows how great Jimmy is,
I'll go listen
those are great songs too.
I do love me some funk.
Yeah, I think it was under Praxis. So it's Bootsy Collins and Bill Laswell. And
nice. Okay.
Yeah, it's an interesting group right there.
Yeah.
We're actually doing Jimi Hendrix here.
Oof.
A couple months.
Soon, yeah. Soon.
All right, Tim, what's your number 10?
My number 10 is going to be Scarlet's Walk. When you get a songwriting style that's very much your own, and you start experimenting, like we went through the electronica phase, and we went through the classical. And this was like right in the middle where I feel like we were going really Americana.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
yeah. It's not as country as we get, but yeah. I really liked Wednesday. I thought that was a really good song. Sweet Sangria was really good. I really enjoyed Pancake, um, and the rest of it were good songs. But yes, it's not necessarily the style I'm going to gravitate to. And then there's this weird, like the keyboard sound, I guess she's using. It almost sounds like an old Stevie Wonder AM Gold type sound that kind of threw me off a little bit.
A
Um,
Wurlitzer.
is that what it was? Okay.
Yeah. A
Um,
country Joe and the Fish's Wurlitzer.
oh, well, okay. Well, then, yeah, that you got to throw on an album. I can understand that.
Yeah.
And I did think the sequencing on this album was really good. I thought it flowed fantastically. But yeah, it's just a little too Americana for me. So it won't be the first one I go back to. But we're getting up there. Like I did, I really enjoyed all of these albums. So.
Well, it is Americana. The story behind what inspired it was somebody came up to her and said, you have to tell the story of America.
Oh,
and
in an album.
Yeah, so the album came with a map, and she had been in New York when 9/11 happened.
Oh, okay.
And so the I Can't See New York is really kind of drawing on that, but also, traveling the U.S. with this Strange Little Girls album.
Okay.
And doing that and meeting people all through the U.S. So, yeah, it's an interest. I love the backstory, but yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing I found with all these albums. I almost had to stop paying attention to a couple of them. But the concepts are grandiose. The artwork there's meaning behind it. Every single one of these songs is very personal and has a story behind it. And at some point is like, I can't keep it all straight. I just got to focus on the music. And
for sure.
But yeah, it really impressed me how much thought went into each and every single one of these albums. There's a lot of artists out there that have long discography, long careers, and at some point they just kind of give up, and that did not happen here. So
no.
Yeah, I pre-ordered that vinyl reissue. I'm hoping it comes with the map.
Oh, nice.
We're all wondering about the map and what the map situation will be with the vinyl.
Yeah. Because I got some gaps in my Tori vinyl. That's one of them. My number 10 is Ocean to Ocean. That's what I was saying, because I was like, oh man, we're going to have like the same. But then you went Under the Pink, so we deviated.
Yeah, it's gonna get mixed up.
Not by much, though. Yeah, I like this album. I like the opening track. Love the drumming in the verses. Speaking with Trees was okay. Devil's Bane was fantastic. Shot of Tequila washed me clean from his sermons and conspiracies. Swim to New York State was not my jam. Wasn't feeling it. Loved Spies. It was so upbeat and energetic. Ocean to Ocean had great lyrics, but then it just kind of dipped for me with Ocean and Flowers, Burned to Gold. Metal Water Wood was damn good though, and 29 Years was my highlight. Top tier Tory lyrics on this one. I really liked How Glass is Made. Love Birthday Baby as well. Love the Sometimes in Life a Girl Must Tango Alone. Don't Be Afraid to Tango Alone. Overall, nothing I hated, just nothing I really loved either. So that's why it's number 10. All right, Tim, are you going to break my heart again? What's your number 9?
I don't know. I don't know if I will or not. But my number 9 could be American Doll Posse.
You broke my heart.
Oh.
I get it though.
Yeah, I don't know. Like when it started, like probably within 30 seconds, I was like, oh well, this will be last. And then like by the end of it, I enjoyed the album so much. It's so much fun. It's really good. Um, and I had the thought, like, I did something different with this discography than I normally do. Normally, I'll go like in order, and this one I kind of skipped around a little bit just to get some flavor and see where I was headed. Um, and so this was one I kind of actually saved to last. It wasn't like last, but it was towards the end. So I'd gone through the other Americana stuff, and then this one it was like full on country. But as opposed to the other Americana albums that have a much more serious tone to them, uh, at least to my ears, this one did. It just sounded fun, and it sounded like we were playing fun music for fun music's sake, and I'm always a fan of that. So, yeah, it is the country album, but it's like it showed me that you could throw Tori Amos in any musical situation and she would have destroyed. Like just would have been absolutely the best at it. And so it makes like her very very first album that we're not talking about and the whole story leading up to that much more interesting for me because when you do what the record company tells you to do, it doesn't always work out. But when you're just having fun, usually it'll work out. Um, anyway, yeah, I really enjoyed this album. Um, fun album.
Yeah.
I'm definitely gonna listen to it again.
All
Yeah.
right. My number 9 hasn't been brought up yet, so but it's Native Invader. Reindeer King didn't grab me really. On Wings, Tori sounds fantastic. That wop 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 intro on Broken Arrow was interesting. Song gets much better at the Rash and Reckless Won't Get Us section. It sounds like two different songs were mixed together though. Kind of got that feeling on the first song as well. Um, Cloud Riders was good. Up the Creek was awesome. I had heard Tori. I had heard that Tori had her daughter singing on those later albums, but never really bothered to listen. But hearing it now, it works really well. Um, every song with Tash on it was like the best of the album.
Mm.
Breakaway was great. Wildwood again sounds like multiple songs mashed together. I loved like some parts of it, but not others. Chocolate Song was damn good. I don't like the things you say sometimes, that I don't like the things I say. Now vowels and consonants are weaponry. That was pretty cool. Bang is so witty and good. This album is picking up in the back half. I don't know why I wrote that. Loved Climb. Bats was weird. Didn't get it. Benjamin was weird as well, but this one worked for me. Hashtag Ninja Ben. Mary's Eyes was okay. Overall, I did enjoy this one. I need to give it some more spins. So, again,
Nice.
didn't I liked it, but it's got to go down here somewhere.
Nice. Nice.
What's your number 9?
Oh well, my number 9 is Night of Hunters. Regrettably, Night of Hunters, but I absolutely this was my number 1 for a while because I just absolutely love what she did here. Shattering Sea. I mean, I could write a dissertation on why Shattering Sea is such a beautiful composition, especially if you compare it to the original composition by Ravel, which is much slower and more of a dirge. And then she just, I mean, like Tori's, I mean, just musically, one of her things is she plays really fast. So, like, her compositions aren't necessarily really complicated. Like, I can look at the sheet music and go, "Oh, okay, that's not very complicated." What makes them complicated is she switches time signatures a lot and she plays really fast. So you got to learn a piece and then bring it up to speed. And so Shattering Sea, she just brings that speed into it. And then when they did it live, where she toured with a quartet for that album, and it was even faster. And I was like, how the heck is she hanging on? Like, it's just hanging on to it was really spectacular. I loved Battle of Trees because it's that kind of prepared piano effect. Fearlessness was really wonderful. Cactus Practice. It's what was that? Sword in the Stone. That's what's playing in my head is the what was it? The Disney cartoon where the
Right.
Where they're changing
wizard.
each other into
Yeah,
different
yeah, yeah.
animals.
Cactus Practice. Star Whisperer, which is really lovely, which actually is two songs put together. Nautical Twilight. Really love Night of Hunters as the song. And um, yeah, I mean, I think this album is a really strong turnout. And, she was just approached by the head of Decca Records who said, hey, would you do this song cycle? And yeah, so I really enjoyed this album a lot. Carrie is really, the lyrics to Carrie are beautiful, but I cannot listen to that song. It breaks my heart. It's so like poignant for loss. I'm like, no, I'm out. Like, it's an amazing song, but I'm out. I can't listen.
Oh yeah, there's a couple Tory songs like that.
Yeah, yeah. Love it to death, but no, can't listen. Yeah. But I really absolutely love that album.
All right.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm liking my new dot system. You guys can't see it, but it lets me keep track of who has to go first. My next one
Whatever works.
is what's that?
Whatever works.
That's right, the dot system. My next one's Under the Pink. Pretty Good Year's Fine. God is Perfection. Past the Mission is So Good. You can like really get that like healing from this album. Um, I love Trent Reznor's vocals. Like I think he did a much better job than the other song earlier with the vocals were too loud. Uh, Baker Baker is great. The Wrong Band is fun. The Waitress is 100% true. I worked at Waffle House. I believe in peace, bitch. Love Cornflake Girl. Never really cared for Icicle that much. Cloud on My Tongue is fine. Space Dog is fantastic, though. I love the delivery of this song and the tempo changes. I love all the lyrics on Yes Anastasia. I didn't know that was like a stream of conscious song. That's crazy. Like,
There's more, but that's coming.
oh, but it is my least favorite '90s Tory. Like, it doesn't stand out as much to me as the others. But there's still like the highs are super high on it.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I got on that one.
Nice.
So what's your number 8, Rose?
So my number 8 is To Venus and Back. And I think stylistically as an album, a lot of my like top songs are on this album. But the songs on it that don't hit me are Lust and Suede. But the rest, I mean, Bliss is a great song. I love Juarez. Um, Concertina, absolutely love Concertina. And I love it when she plays it live because she's like way into it. Glory of the 80s, fantastic. Spring Haze, I mean, just there's a lot of really, I really love such a strong, strong album. Yeah.
Oh, 100%. I can't wait till I get to that one. My notes literally say I kind of tune out for Lust and Suede.
I have a note about Lust as well, but we'll get there.
All right, do you want to throw your number 8 out there, Tim, and then we'll go to a commercial?
Sure, I can do that. My number 8 is going to be Native Invader. I thought it was a really good album, actually, especially kind of after the classical and the Americana thing, kind of throwing it back to it a little bit. Broken Arrow and Up the Creek were my two favorite songs off of it. And the rest of it, like, just keep throwing them at me. They're really good. But those were the two that really jumped out at me. Like, oh, this, there's something here. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the later albums a lot more than I thought I would. The songwriting on here is just impeccable. And yeah, a lot of just really interesting musical choices. and song arrangements, and yeah, native arrange, native invader.
Yeah, that's kind of because I was like, I don't know, because I'm reading my notes and it's like you got to have a reason to justify it, putting it down here. But then it's like it's so good that it's hard to
Yeah,
justify.
yeah, and
Like,
man, that started at number 13. Really, they're all really good, and yeah,
my
could be
number,
number one, could be number 8.
the only album that did not change was my number one.
Oh,
Everything
nice.
else kind of slid around a little bit.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I guess we are going to cut to a commercial. I have no idea who our sponsor is going to be. Give me something from the 80s or the 90s.
Oh, we'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. Stay tuned.
Yeah,
MTV, right?
MTV?
yeah, there you go.
Right?
Yeah, I'll find an MTV commercial. They'll
Do
sponsor
the
us.
MTV News thing.
We play
Find
more.
a
We play more music than they do.
yeah, exactly. There you
Cool.
go.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
I'm Kurt Loder with an MTV News Brief. According to Hollywood's Daily Variety, Alicia Silverstone has been tapped to play Batgirl and Uma Thurman to play the lethal-lipped villainous Poison Ivy in the third Batman sequel, which, like the second one, Batman Forever, will be directed by Joel Schumacher. No official confirmation yet of this report, nor another report that Demi Moore and Sharon Stone both thought the Poison Ivy part was theirs. That's the news for now. More on this and other stories throughout the day here on MTV.
Okay.
So my number 7 is Abnormally Attracted to Sin. And I really do this is one of those albums where I don't skip songs, not because I mean 500 Miles, Mary Jane, like those songs whatever, but because of the sequencing, I think the sequencing was really top notch on this album, but I love I think Give is the perfect opener for this album. Welcome to England. I am such a huge fan of Welcome to England. Strong Black Vine. And when she was doing live, we call it Demon Tori. So she'd go into these like rants, throwing out the F word here and there. Flavor is really interesting song. Not Dying Today, I think it's one of those songs people love to hate because it's discordant's not the right word for it, but it's kind of, I don't know, out there. It's one of those things where she's trying new things, and I think that's what I really like about this album is the Not Dying Today is it's not a typical Tori Amos song, and I like that. Curtain Call's got really beautiful writing on it. Police Me, I love Police Me because it's wild. It's got a groove in it, which is the same thing with Abnormally Attracted to Sin. It's got this groove in it that I love. And Fast Horse, again, absolutely love that groove in Fast Horse. But this is a really strong turnout. Ophelia is, I think, a great song. With the lyrically, Ophelia is really, really wonderful. And one that a lot of people tend not to, I mean, it's a song of calling people out to like, all right, check yourself. What are these patterns of behavior that you're stuck into, that you're roping yourself into? And, but yeah, I really do love this album.
Very cool. Very cool. So I have a question for you then, having
Yeah.
seen her so many times.
Yeah.
In my research for this, I see that like it's kind of 50-50. It's either her in a band or just her.
Mhm.
So I guess it's a two-part question. Is there a difference in time length between those two setups? And then the ultimate question would be, how long does she normally play for?
She's been playing for like an hour and 45 to 2 hours.
Okay.
I think on, low end is an hour and a half. And she's been playing in the last 3 tours was 2017, 2022, 2023. 2017 was a little shorter. I think she was really feeling, she put it, holding the space by herself was kind of hard.
Right.
but the sets for this last tour, she was only doing 14 to, I think her max was 18 songs, but she was playing 2 hours. So this last tour, she was doing a lot of like 4 5 minute intros to songs, which
Okay.
just as as you know, musician, someone who's trained, I want to hear her play.
Right.
And so those were really wonderful. But
And then
yeah,
is she changing up set lists, or is it the same thing every night?
every time she's changing up set lists.
Okay, that's always cool.
Yeah.
Very
So Abnormally Attracted to Sin tour, she opened with Give, and she closed the main set with Fast Horse when they swapped out her keyboard setup for the organ. No, I'm sorry, she closed with Strong Black Vine. And then when she's got the band, she does Cornflake Girl. And I think Cornflake Girl, that tour was like in the middle of the set. But,
okay.
so she'll have like a couple of songs that's like, this goes here, this goes here, this goes here. And then, and usually it's an opener and a main set closer. But this last tour, the opener varied between a couple of songs, and there was no obvious main set closer. So she's always switched, which is why I went and saw her 9 times. I'm not, like there are other people I love, but if you're going to play the same set list every night, I'm not paying money to go see you
Right.
play the same
I'll go
set.
see it once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Very
in
cool.
in
Okay.
3 shows I saw, I don't know, I think 4 songs were repeated in 3 shows. This is a huge, and we're talking albums. We're not even dipping into all the B-sides. And I mean, this woman has 350 songs to draw from. So, and then not to mention all the covers that she likes to do.
Sure. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
And
that's just her songs.
yeah,
So
and
that's
you're
cool.
gonna hear like I've heard her play songs that she has only played one time, and you're likely to never hear it again. So hence why you go see lots of shows.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
I hate those bands that do that. Because Green Day does that. They'll play a show here, and then the next night it's the same show, and then the same show. It's like, what's
Yeah.
the point? Like,
And they have the same spot in between these two songs where they finally talk to the crowd, but even that, it's the same thing every night.
yeah,
And
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
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 Well, and um, I always kind of equated that to the sign of real musicianship.
Mm-hmm.
Real musicians are going to go out there and play whatever they want. They're not going to care, and they're going
well,
to be able to do it competently, as opposed to putting on like the I don't know,
Green
pony
Day
trick.
has they're one of those bands that's like very like fireworks and light shows and all this stuff, and it's all
Yeah.
synced together with the songs, so
Sure, yeah,
they have to kind of keep it the same. Or
sure. I don't know. It's probably just the jazz fan in me. I like it when you just go up there and do whatever.
I
oh
mean,
yeah,
famously, she and she didn't do it this last tour because of COVID, but she meets people before the show. So you stand in line for 8 hours to have a 30-second, 60-second conversation with her. People are requesting songs, and so she's playing that, and she did it through letters this last tour.
Oh, cool.
And you're telling her like, oh, this is what happened in this area. Or when I asked her to play Garlands, I said, oh, I have a whole story about this song and the high desert, but suffice it to say, it'd be great in Albuquerque. And so she whips it out in Albuquerque. So it's that conversation she's having with fans that really creates the show. And then I think that conversation with fans also informs the albums.
That makes sense.
yeah.
Sure. Okay. That's cool.
And she has Sarah too. She had Sarah this last time that was
Yeah.
running a lot of stuff to her. And
Yes.
I'd love to get Sarah on the show just to talk about like that experience of Tori and her fans.
Yeah. Yeah. She told us that she had to sleep. She's in a bunk, and she had to sleep with all the gifts that we were giving to Tori. And she gets all crunched up, and because the bunk just fills up with everything that people's giving to Tori, until she can find a mail drop to send it to where Tori keeps all the gifts that fans have given her over the years. Yeah. She's funny. She'd be an interesting get because she said things that she was like, "Don't you dare tell anybody that. You
Uh-oh.
shouldn't be saying that out loud, honey."
Come on the show, Sarah. Defend
Yeah,
yourself.
yeah.
That's awesome.
All right, Tim, what is your number 7?
Well, my number 7 ended up being one of my favorite albums, but I had to rank it lower because there's actually no drums on
Mm.
it. I got to go with Night of Hunters. Incredible album. It has no drums on it, which I'm a drummer, so that's the first thing I'm gonna listen to, no matter what I'm listening to. And even then, we're in the top half here. Like, this is fantastic album. Um, I really like the orchestration. The symphonic stuff in the background is just fantastic. Uh, as always, the songwriting is fantastic. I also really like the classical um, influence. I wouldn't necessarily call this a classical album. I mean, it's got vocals, so you can't. But but it's got that influence, and it's just done really well. And yeah, I don't know. Anytime you get a singer songwriter where the main instrument is piano, um, the options are just tremendous. You can do
Mhm.
whatever you want to do behind that in the studio, and so that's usually where it's make or break. And this made it. This was fantastic. Loved it. Great album.
Shoot, I'll have to use that Mucinex commercial. Um, my number 7 is Venus. I've always had a soft spot for this record. This was my first Tori album that I was anticipating at release, I guess. Um, I don't think it's as good as Choir, but it has that same vibe going for it. The first 4 tracks, from Bliss to Glory, are all top songs. Love them all. She kind of nails it with Glory of the 80s. I kind of tune out for Lust and Suede, but come back for Josephine. I love the soft drumming in this one. Riot Poof is just almost reggae sounding. So good. I think I missed a letter there. It lost me with Datura, not a fan. Spring Haze is just okay, but A Thousand Oceans is an amazing closer.
Mhm.
Um, Plus the live part is really good too, but just the actual studio album is top Tory.
Yeah. Now the song, it was a she released it in 2006 on the A Piano collection, so it was either going to be Datura or 0 Point. And she had to pick one, so she picked Datura. 0 Point, I think, is actually the stronger song,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
you hear. I don't know if you've listened to 0 Point. Is definitely worth a listen because I think it's a really epic piece of songwriting. But she picks up the Hang 10 piece that she was using in 0 Point and pulls it into the Waitress, the live version of the Waitress that she started doing for that To
Okay.
Venus, or that you hear on To Venus and Back. But definitely a song worth a listen to. As we get into these earlier albums, she gets so many B-sides that is like, oh my gosh, they deserve their own.
So has she? I see she put out like a collection of all of them at some point.
So many.
Oh, he's pulling up.
Yeah, this thing was cool.
Yeah, I mean, she's had the B-sides get released. So there's yeah, they got released for Pele, Under the Pink, and Earthquakes in the re-release form.
Oh yeah, sure.
And then Scarlet has its own little CD thing that came with the DVD. And but yeah, I mean, yeah. Yeah, I mean, they get their own. There's less of when the albums got longer, there's less B-sides because now she can include them.
Sure.
She
That
was
makes
on that
sense.
comp for I can't remember the name of it. It had Last Kiss on it by Pearl Jam. Merman was on it. It was a benefit for Kosovo, maybe.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah,
Like that was a
yeah,
good song too, Merman.
yeah. That was also free if you pre-ordered Choir Girl.
Oh, that's cool.
Okay.
All right. Tim, what is your number 6?
Well, we just mentioned it. I'm going to go with From the Choir Girl Hotel. Another really strong album. I really liked Spark. I really liked Raspberry Swirl. It's kind of a silly song, but it's also really not a silly song. It's really good. Um, I thought Pandora's Aquarium was a really good closer. Um, just a really good album. Um, I like the electronica stuff that she's adding to this part of the career. I do think she does it a little better on a couple other albums, but I really appreciate, yeah, just that willingness to experiment and try new things. Um, and it works really well. Really liked the album. Uh, I was surprised, especially reading the background behind the themes behind it and stuff, how happy it sounded. But you said it earlier; she likes that juxtaposition, and and just musically, I think it's a really strong album. It's energetic, but it's also melancholy when you start getting into the lyrics and below. Like it gets downright dark as usual with all of these albums. But musically, it just felt really fun, and I don't want to say light, but like light on your feet. I would say, I guess, just like happy go lucky. It's a fun album. It's a really good listen.
All right. My number 6 is Unrepentant, which is pretty high. This album blew me away. Like, I was shocked when I heard this the first time this week. I've listened to it multiple times since. America's fantastic. Trouble's Lament, Wild Way, So Far So Good. Wedding Day is So Sweet. Should be played at every wedding since 2014. Weatherman is fine. 16 Shades of Blue. There's so much going on in this song
Mm.
musically. Like, it is crazy. Like, listen to this one with headphones. Maze was slow, and I thought it was going to be my first miss on the album, but then it gets much better. Promise, that song is amazing. Having her daughter sing with her is just perfect. I was pretty sure my top 5 songs were going to be from the early albums, but now I'm not so sure. Giant's Rolling Pin going into Selkie is the Tori I know and love. And the title track, I think this is the best title track she has.
Mm.
Little Earthquakes is great. It's up there too, but this one is really good. Uh, when the Chapel of Birds part kicked in, I was not expecting that. Good shit. Oysters, oh my god, because I'm working my way back. I'm working my way back to me again. Not gonna lie, Tori had me in tears for the first time since I heard Little Earthquakes.
Mm.
Rose Dover is perfect. I kept waiting for a miss, but it never came. Invisible Boy was a great closing track. When she does that, but not you, Goosebumps.
Mm.
Uh, the whole album is consistently amazing. This was a huge missed album for me back in the day, but I'll be listening to this one again and again. I like that back to, I guess, like as you said, it was more of a back to form. It
Hmm.
worked for me.
And she's got 3 B-sides for this album. Forest of Glass, which is one that I just think is, I think it's the strongest song from this album that's not actually on the album. And then there's Dixie, which is about her mother, and White Telephone to God, which is, I guess for the drinkers, is the toilet bowl. I'm not a drinker, sorry, but
It's in the title. We kind of have to. So
yeah, I know. Sadly, I don't drink, but I'll pretend. Yeah,
perfect.
yeah. And I love that you love it. That's what I love too.
I
I
was
love that.
shocked, like
Yeah.
because I'd kind of not really given up, but just stopped listening to Tori, and
Yeah.
that was a good album.
What excites me so much about this is that, of course, I'll promo it in the groups that I'm in, and that for people to go and watch, I think, especially when you're a long-term fan, hearing somebody else diving and delving into the discography and coming up with their opinions about it is really exciting.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You get to see things through new eyes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's that's been one of the funnest things to do in this show is because one of us will have an artist say, "Hey, we should do this one," so the other people have to listen to it. Like I made them listen to 13 Green Day records last week. I've got to listen to 7 Hypo Negative records in a couple weeks. So
We're mixing it up.
we're mixing it
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
I did turn. I don't know if you've ever heard of That Dog, but I turned them all into That Dog fans.
No,
Check
I
out that
haven't.
episode.
Okay. All
They're
right.
really good.
Yeah, that was a really fun one.
I'm surprised they haven't played on any of these records.
I am
Tori-
too, considering how many other albums they did
Yeah,
play
like Petra
on.
Hayden's been on so much stuff.
Tori's a
still-
Leo, and Leos are. It's when Leos are about Leos,
That makes sense. Yeah.
right? I mean, you've got 2
Especially in
duets.
the studio.
Yeah, you've got 2 duets in her whole catalog, and the duet is the person in the duet is singing the background vocals.
Oh yeah.
An actual duet. Yeah. Anyway, so my number 6 is also from the Choir Girl Hotel. And I remember at the time, because we were just, really getting into the internet. This was a really divisive album because, she went from piano with some harpsichord to just all this electronica. And I think this is what made me respect her more as an artist, because she's just like, well, let me totally experiment with, new instrument and new songwriting. And so, yeah, love Spark, love Cruel, getting classic Tory pronunciation, my balaloon, right? Not balloon, but, where she's adding extra syllables. Love it. Black Dove, which has got, that slow start to the epic and, the kind of back and forth. I love IIE. I think that's a really beautiful song. And then Liquid Diamonds, which has this like drum and bass intro and then outro, which is not, she's not. I think she specifically chooses when to do that. Like Scarlet's Walk ends with her voice. Every song ends with her voice. So I think that
Interesting.
you've got
Okay.
this fade in and fade out with Liquid Diamonds, which is really interesting. And yeah, I definitely hear the rhythm. It's usually bass first, then drums for me, and vocals last. Vocals always last, and they're always going to be wrong. But Hotel, I think Hotel is such a standout song, that soaring vocal in it, and the ease of ending it with Pandora's Aquarium. And yeah, great. It is a really great album for sure. And yeah.
All right. Well, I'm gonna lead right into that because that is my next one. Is Choir Girl Hotel.
Bam.
Oh, you've got an Choir Girl LP? Good Lord.
Yeah. I don't know if it's an original or not.
It is.
Is it?
Yes.
I should.
Those are
One and done, huh? Never been reissued?
never been reissued. Those are highly sought after.
Oh wow. See,
Yeah.
I started collecting records right before everyone else started collecting records, so I got a lot of like good stuff pretty cheap. I got another one coming up too. This was the hardest album for me to rank. The highs on this album were like some of the best, my favorite Tori. That's why it went over Unrepentant. The lows are kind of low, but I love the whole thing. Spark is so emotional; it'll just get stuck in your head. As soon as you say that she's addicted, like you're singing it for the rest of the day. I've never had to go through the topic of that song, but I think it's the best way that sad shit has ever been told. Love the chorus on Cruel. Black Dove's okay. Raspberry Swirl sounds like 1998. Not in a bad way, but I know what that song's about. Jackie's Strength, so good.
Mm.
Talk about that one in a different video. IE is just weird, but it works. Liquid Diamonds is okay. She's Your Cocaine is fantastic. Northern Lad is beautiful. I'm not really a fan of Hotel. I usually skip it to get to Playboy Mommy, which could easily be a top song for me. I love the way the song just keeps building and building.
Mm.
Pandora's okay. It's a good closer. Um, it's not as consistent because now we're down into like these albums are all really, really, really good, and it got
Mm.
really hard to get the top five down. But out of the
Indeed.
rest of them, that's where I'd have to put it.
Nice.
Who's got the? Oh, it's Rose's turn. We don't need the dot yet.
So, my number 5 is Scarlet's Walk. And I got album bingo for Scarlet's Walk. This last tour, which is where you hear every song on the album has been
Oh,
you've heard it live. I got it for Choir Girl too. But yeah, I really do love this album a lot. And so many good turnout songs. And the funny thing about this album, the Amber Waves, I mean, it's a good song, good starter, but there was a 6 song sampler CD that got leaked, and we got a copy of it and had a scratch on Amber Waves, and Amber Waves just grates on me
I
because I hear
I
that scratch in my head. Did you have that too?
I talked about it in the Counting Crows, but I downloaded a Counting Crows song before it had come out, and it was like a 3 4
yeah.
minutes, but this was back in like the LimeWire days, so it wasn't
Mhm.
correct. It was like the first 10 seconds of the song just over and over again. So, and now when I hear the album, that I hear that boom, ding, 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 ding. I was like, no, I can't do it, and I skip it.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
feel your pain. I know what you
yeah.
mean.
So that is Amber Waves for me. But A Sort of Fairy Tale, I really love A Sort of Fairy Tale. Love it live. Wednesday is fun. Strange, the radio edit for Strange is so much better than what's on this because Scarlet's Walk is so good because of all the fun background vocals, and that's one of the things I love is these different little vocal lines that she's doing. One of the things you could also accuse me of is listening to music with weird noises in the background. and
Nothing wrong with that.
and it's like I'm always picking up on the subtle little noises and this and that. Um, Carbon it's just got all these different feels, and you've got epic songs like I Can't See New York to really beautiful songs like Virginia or Gold Dust to like definite Americana songs. I can see that and hear that. And then she had 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, she had um 8 other songs that were like essentially B-sides that were also just spectacular. And why isn't the Scarlet's LP reissue getting those songs on LP? Because some of those aren't even you can't stream
I,
them on any of the services, which is a
I
shame.
bet they're saving it for Record Store Day.
I hope so because yeah, well, I'll talk about one of those in another video. But
Ooh, yeah, I know that
yeah,
one.
yeah, love those. Yeah, great. It's a great album, and I think cohesive. The story is really cohesive for this one.
All right,
Cool.
Tim, what is your number 5?
My number 5 is Ocean to Ocean.
Mm.
There's not a bad song on here. Like, it's just really, really good. And especially considering that it's last in this discography, like this is the current album we're on. It really, it's a nice culmination of everything that's come before it. But I also found myself excited for whatever comes next by the end of it. It's really like if this is where we're ending, it's great. Addition of Light Divided was fantastic. Spies is fantastic. I really liked how Glass is made and Metal Water Wood. Those are all really good songs. But yeah, there's not a bad one on here. Like this is front to back, uh, um, an amazing album that I think probably got overlooked by a lot of people because of where we're at this point in her career. You know I certainly before going through it, I kind of, most artists, either you're gonna like them or not, and so you just kind of live your life that way. And yeah, I think this one should have been a lot more. I don't know, praised than I guess it has been, because I
Yeah.
don't think I've actually seen anything about it. It's great, loved it,
Yeah.
really good album,
All right.
and that's my hot take of the day.
I mean, that's a good album.
It's
Yeah.
yeah, I was I
It's
was
an album.
I
A
was
hot take would
really
have been like Boys for Pele in 13th.
sure.
That
Okay,
would have been a
that would have been
pretty
the
hot
hot
take.
take.
Honestly, I think with the fan community, the hot take is going to be Choir Girl Where It Is. Because it's an album a lot of people absolutely love.
Huh.
And I can see why. It's
Yeah.
really fantastic. Yeah.
It made my top 5. I'm safer
Yeah.
than you guys.
Nice.
Rose, what did you got? You got the dot. What's your next? What's your
Okay.
number 4?
My number 4 is Little Earthquakes.
Oh,
Yeah. And again, I mean, it's a great, absolutely great album. And so much I love about this album. And I mean, it was my first album with her. And uh, she starts off really strong with Crucify, Girl, which I always tell people, like, you know, the song that I would say is most that I want to be would be like Precious Things, like, oh, that's my story. But I think Girl is actually the song that is my story. I'm a people pleaser. Silent All These Years, after all these years, Silent All These Years has absolutely grown on me and really speaks to the heart of me. Precious Things, Winter's just beautiful. Happy Phantom, I mean, it's a fun song, love it. China, like, I get why people like it, pretty song, but I'm just not into it. Leather, I love Leather from the get-go. It was a song that she used to play it a lot, and the joke was, and it wasn't on the album, it's really fast, but when she plays it live, it's like, and she like stretches it out, and so it grates on people. Mother gives me goosebumps. Tear in Your Hand is great. Me and a Gun is, I mean, I think that kind of made her. And as a song, she did it last summer, and it's not a song she does anymore, really. And she did it last summer, and it was just spectacular last summer. And juxtaposed with 29 years, because last summer was, 2021 was 29 years since Little Earthquakes had happened. So that she was kind of bringing those two together, and the healing. And then, Little Earthquakes, I absolutely love Little Earthquakes. That's a song I'm guaranteed to hear when she plays live. One of my best friends has lyrics from Little Earthquakes tattooed here. And then, not to mention the plethora of amazing B-sides for this album that, when she first turned it in, a bunch of those B-sides were on the album, and the record execs were like, no, go back and do more songs. But some of those B-sides are really, well, should have been on the album. But yeah, great album.
All
all right. Tim, what's your number 4?
right. My number 4 is Boys for Pele.
You did that just because I said it was a hot take.
No, I did it because I mean, at this point, like, really, it's really hard to rank these, having only listened to them once, when they're all this good. Um, I felt like, I mean, this one's really good. Some of the interludes I felt like kind of weighed it down a little bit as far as like length and just flow. I mean, I understand why they're there, and I can see where that might be the flow, but it didn't quite work for me as well as the next couple. Um, but yeah, like Father Lucifer was awesome. I thought Caught a Little Sneeze was awesome. Hey Jupiter was awesome. Um, in the springtime of his voodoo was is um, incredible. I loved that one. Um, yeah, it's a great album. I don't know. I don't know what to say. It's really good. You should
Fun
listen to it.
fun fact though, my girlfriend at the time, who made me the mixtape for Pele, back in the day we had answering machines, and I wasn't home or
What's
something.
that?
I came home and I checked my answering machine, and she's just going, "No one's picking up the phone."
That
So
works.
I was like, "Hey, I know that song now."
Yeah.
Hold on, I gotta check something because I don't think Rose has picked something yet. She has not. That's
Uh
awful.
oh. Jason sees a hot take coming.
Yeah.
Well, I thought it was gonna be a hot take, but Rose hasn't picked it either, and that is American Doll Posse.
Okay.
Um, I thought it was her most underrated Tori album, but I could be wrong. Um, I've always loved this one. I've always seen Posse as like Pele Part Two as far as the musical side.
Mm, mm,
Um, the concept just kind of works for me on this one. Yo George is short. Opening track is perfect. Big wheel kicks so much ass. Love the pace of bouncing off clouds. Teenage Hustling is top tier. Santa's probably my favorite singer on this album. But Pip and Isabel are close seconds. Digital Ghost is beautiful. You Can Bring Your Dog is so good. I'm Not Living to Be the Missus. I'm Not Making Any Promises, Honey, but you still got that something, pretty boy. I was probably drunk when I made these notes. I don't know why I pulled that quote out, but Mr. Badman is great. Fat Slut is short and to the point, and she goes from that raunchy, loud, raw to the beautiful girl disappearing. Secret Spell could have been a hit single, I think. It's better than
mm.
anything else on the radio in 2007. Devils and Gods, now that's an ideal, but if we believe that it's they who decide, that's the ultimate detractor of crimes. So good. Body and Soul, don't really care for the intro, but that chorus is fantastic. Father Son would be the first skippable song for me, but that's mostly due to me wanting to get to Programmable Soda. I freaking love this song. Wish it was longer. Code Red could have been on Pele. I'll do this
Mm.
last one, and I'll grow me some wine. Leave them troubled boys all behind. What you stole, I would have given freely. Rooster Spur and Beauty of Speed is the dip for me, but Almost Rosie brings it back up. Fucking amazing lyrics. Velvet Revolution brings back those sporadic Pit vibes. Dark Side and Smokey Joe are okay. Posse Bonus, so good. Glad Santa got to close out the album because Dragon is amazing.
Mhm.
I don't think this album, I said I don't think this song has any filler. I don't think this album has any filler really. There's about 3 songs that I could skip, but they're not bad. So like I love that record. That's one of my favorites.
Nice. Nice.
All right, Tim, what's your number 3?
My number 3 is going to be To Venus and Back.
Oh, that's
Um,
high. I like
is it?
that.
I really liked this album. I thought,
Well,
like
compared to
the
us.
one with Juarez is great. Concertina is great. Glory of the '80s is great, and she even shouts it out by year. 1985 is great year for music. Go back and check it out. Um, and then towards the back half, I thought Riot Poof, Datura, and Spring Haze were all awesome. Just great songs there. And then I mentioned it earlier. We got to talk about the middle here. Um, so being a drummer, obviously, like there's a little thing I heard in Lust where the electronic cymbal chokes out too early,
Mm.
and I hear it every time, and it drives me nuts. Kind of like you guys were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
And so, like halfway through the song, I was like, "Man, if they had done this with real drums, this would be one of my favorite songs." And then Josephine happens, where
Mm.
it's like, "Oh my God, they did it! This is one of my favorites!" Like, and it's got real drums. So it was really interesting for me to see um, how you can take an idea and either it works or it doesn't work just based on a decision make. But that was really like my really only head scratcher on this album. I thought it was a really good album that, especially at this point in the career and in the timeline of years, just what was this, 98, 99, something like that.
Yeah,
It was
99.
definitely a top album for '99 for me. There was some bad
Um,
stuff in '99.
Yeah, I remember a lot of people like experimenting with electronica and samples and drum machines during that period. And being a bit of a purist, I was not the biggest fan of that. But over the years, I've grown to appreciate it and whatnot. Um, and having heard this one, this was one of the better examples of it from that time frame. It's a really good album. Really good album. I was really happy with it. So.
And she's an artist who, she's bringing in Matt Chamberlain to play.
Mm-hmm.
And so, she's, and the creation is here. She's got the piece of music. And then, Matt's picking what he wants to go with it. It's his decision. It's, because as she has said, he's the drummer.
Awesome. Yeah.
So she's
Okay.
not telling him, I want to hear this or I want to hear this. So it's really interesting. I mean, those are his choices are, and John Evans, what he's playing on that's John Evans's choice of how he's melding. And, so she's really, I mean, they're two really spectacular musicians in terms of what they're selecting to play with her.
Absolutely. You can say that about a number of albums. And then this one specifically, you say Matt Chamberlain like helped program these drums then?
Yeah.
That makes total sense because it's not just, I can usually tell if I hear a song like, oh, they just hit, demo and and record, or they just did a loop and that was it. And this one, they feel lively and that like a real person thought about them instead of just hitting a button. And I always appreciate that. So
Native Invader and Unrepentant Geraldines are the two albums that are drum programming.
Okay.
Huh.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the rest are, are an actual drummer.
Well, that probably explains why I didn't like the Unrepentant Geraldines as much. Yeah. That must have just subconsciously like hit me. Because at this point it does. Like I'll hear something. Like,
yeah, you're gonna love Smashing Pumpkins' "Adore."
I can't tell you how excited I am for that.
That's gonna be a rough week. All right, my number 3 is Scarlet's Walk. I don't have the vinyl for this one yet. I love this album. This was a surprise placement for me. Because in my mind, I always had Choir Girl over it. But doing this exercise, this one came out ahead. This was my wife and I's Tori album. It is a 100% road trip album through and through. We had the deluxe version of the CD. This concept just works for me. That's why I was all excited about the Foo Fighters Sonic Highways, because I thought they were going to do something similar, but they messed that up. Amber Waves is an amazing opening track, a sort of fairy tale and taxi ride where my wife and I's jams. Love Wednesday, so it's so fun. It ends up in like so many different places. Love Strange. Carbon's intro is a little long, but once it gets going, it's great. Love the play on Keep Your Eyes on Her Horizon. Crazy is so good and chill. Wham Pam Prayer is short and fine. Vegas and Sweet Sangria are good. Your Cloud, I do usually skip. Loves Tori's vocal delivery on Pancake. I Can't See New York is good. This is all my notes are just, it's good, it's great, it's good, it's great. Mrs. Jesus is a top song contender. The gospel changes meaning if you follow John or Paul, and could you ever let it be the Mary of it all? Taxi Ride to Another Girl's Paradise is just
Mm.
mwah, as Will would say. Not a big fan of the title track, and Virginia's fine, but Gold Dust is an amazing closing track. Like in my mind, I always thought it had more filler than
Mm.
it does, but like when you're listening to it, you're like, it's just all freaking great. The whole album's just so good. I love the road concept too, like the Americana feel.
Mm.
I'm a sucker for Americana.
Nice.
Um, yeah, we'll let Rose do her number 3, and then we'll cut to a commercial. It sounds like.
All right. My number 3 is American Doll Posse. And one of the things I love about this album was the glam feel of the guitars on it.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah.
Love that glam feel. Um, the
Well, and I've
concept,
mentioned it a couple times on the show already. I always equate that with the old Def Leppard sound.
yeah,
Because when Shania Twain married Def Leppard's producer, Popular Country all started sounding like a Def Leppard album.
yeah. I mean, yeah. It's I hear '70s glam with it, and I really do like some '70s glam rock. Her husband is actually the guitar player for her since 2002. So
Okay.
he's
Okay.
he's playing guitar under a pseudonym. Um, Devils and Gods was one of like my favorite top 5 songs for a long, long time. Not the short version, but when she did it live, it was like this whole 4-minute song with all these extra verses. I absolutely love Father Son, and when she was doing it on tour last year, she was doing it with Riders on the Storm mashed up into the middle.
Nice. Stay tuned
Ab-
next week. We'll be
yeah,
talking about Riders on the Storm.
nice. I love that's my favorite Doors song. I love that song. Um, Code Red is amazing. Let's see, I'm bouncing all over the place here. Body and Soul, when she's doing that live now, she does Personal Jesus with it. So
That's
she
cool.
throws that in. I mean, there's some songs on here that get a lot of crap. Like I've heard Big Wheel. She's played Big Wheel over 200 times. Like, okay, it's a short song, it's a fun song. But Teenage Hustling, she just brought that back this tour for a couple of times, and I love Teenage Hustling. It's such a great song. Um, yeah, and Almost Rosie. I think Almost Rosie is a great song, and one of the things I love it is that it almost gets to be too much, and it makes me uncomfortable a little bit because I'm like it's too much, too much, too much, and then it crests, and I like that. And yeah, I mean, there's so many, and then the closer of Dragon is it's an absolutely stunning song. Dragon is really, really beautiful. But yeah, this album I think is. I remember when it was announced, my friend's like, "Oh my God, it's called American Doll Posse," and I was like, "Oh, that's funny. What's it really called?" He's like, "No, this album." I was like, "Wait, what?" And I mean, I think she's building off of what she was doing with the Beekeeper in terms of concepts. But I like this, I mean, and detractors have said, well, she had these different sounding songs, and so she just made up these dolls to go with them to put it together as a cohesive album. But I still think it really
It
works.
works. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she loves doing stuff like, the kind of funky, like fun Mr. Badman, and you can bring your dog. She likes that. There's at least one on every album. Programmable Soda. She loves that kind of
Mrs. Zebra.
fun.
Mr. Zebra.
Yeah, Mr. Zebra, exactly. She loves that fun lightness and just sticking them in there. And but yeah, I really like this album. And I mean, it's a hot take that it's this high for sure.
I was curious because because I had it
Yeah,
pretty high too. I always feel
yeah,
like you don't see a lot of people talk about it that
no,
much.
you
Well,
definitely
I can
don't.
see where a lot of people would see it as the outlier here too, because it is um, so unlike the other ones.
Hmm.
That's what I love about it. It's so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
All right. I guess we're gonna have to cut to another commercial.
Oh my gosh.
Good conversation. We'll be back.
Okay.
MTV News. You hear it first.
Welcome back. We are at the top 2. And my number 2 is an original pressing. Coke bottle clear.
Ooh,
Voice for Pele.
nice.
This
Has
one,
that one? So that one was reissued with the deluxe stuff, or
I don't
no?
know if they've reissued Boys.
Yes.
Have they? Okay. I already had a copy, so I didn't pay attention. It starts out kind of quiet, kind of slow, but it's still good. This album is a roller coaster. From that to Blood Roses, um, it's the album cover in musical form. I Shaved Every Place That You've Been, Boy, Love Father Lucifer, Professional Widow, hands down one of the best Calling You Out songs ever written. The bass in that song is so good. Tori's weird little noises in the background, the little high Muhammad Ali part, which ties into another song. Mr. Zebra has always been one of my favorite Tori songs. I had my kids singing that when they were like super little.
Nice.
Marianne, I usually skip so I can get to Caught a Light Sneeze. Love that main piano riff. I can still see her playing this live back in '98. Then I just got the lyrics, Dream a Little Dream. Built my own pretty hate machine. Love Muhammad, my friend. Hey Jupiter. Had an ex-girlfriend sing the song to me on my answer machine back in the day. It's so good. Not a fan of Way Down. Little Amsterdam's okay. Love Tallulah and Not the Red Baron. Agent Orange is fine. Donut Song doesn't get good for me until the and if I'm wasting all your time this time part. It's just it's magical. And the springtime's great. This album always kind of like dipped a little in the back half of it for me, just a little bit, but it has some of my favorite Tori songs, like hands down. It's a phenomenal record, but I like one more, just a little bit more. The top 5 were really hard to place.
So we're the bottom 5,
Yeah, and the 5 in the middle.
and yeah. So this was a real tough one.
Yeah, everything other than my number 1 was hard for me.
Yeah, that's where I was at.
Well, we'll get there. We'll get
why
there.
I set parameters up for myself.
That's hard to do too. And we'll get to your number 1, of course. But
Yes.
when we get there, I'm gonna want to know: has it always been your number 1? And so is it number 1 because of nostalgia, etc.? I'll be curious about that when we get there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mine's always
All right.
been my number 1, and I was talking to Joe the other day about doing this. And he's like, "Well, of course it's Boys for Pele because that's the best one." I was like, "Nope, that's not my number 1." So shout out Joe, you're wrong. See if you were on the show, I tell you you were wrong.
Always.
Anyway, go on, Rose. What's your number 2?
My number 2 is also Boys for Pele.
See, it's all across the board, Joe. You were wrong.
And yeah, and there's a lot, Beauty Queen, which is, technically not number 1 on the album. Like there's only 17 songs. Beauty Queen's like this intro, and Horses, where she's got the, of course I'm forgetting it now. But this beautiful, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm forgetting this. It's actually a guitar amp speaker. So she gets that specific sound. And so it's the piano's fed through, and she does that live as well. You kind of see she plays.
like a Leslie speaker?
Yes, thank you.
Rotating?
A
Yeah,
Leslie
okay.
cabinet. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
You can kind of hear it on Horses, and when she's playing live, she sneaks over towards the the bass of the piano, and her foot sneaks under and she hits the pedal to turn the Leslie cabinet on. So you get this really interesting sound quality to it, into Blood Roses on the harpsichord. I mean, wow. Right, the harpsichord on this album. Well, she toured with the harpsichord in '96, and then she was like, never again, because tuning a harpsichord is insane. And Father Lucifer, I love the 3-part vocal line in Father Lucifer, but I really don't like the album version of Father Lucifer. I'd rather hear it live. I think it's spectacular live. Professional Widow's great. Mr. Zebra. Marianne is one of those stream of consciousness songs
Huh.
where she was kind of noodling and, just started playing the song. And her boyfriend at the time, now husband, Mark Hawley, was, just smart man, hit record. Caught a Light Sneeze, spectacular. Muhammad, My Friend, wonderful. Hey Jupiter, I am not a fan of that song, but she talks about writing it in Phoenix, Arizona, and like having a visitation from Freddie Mercury. So I was like, and I love Queen, right? I mean, I love Queen. You'd have to know I love Queen if I'm talking about glam and American Doll Posse.
Sure.
Little Amsterdam, I love Little Amsterdam, and I think it's a really wonderful song live. Tallulah's got those weird little noises in the background. Not the Red Baron, also another stream of consciousness song, where you hear at the beginning her husband's talking to one of the other sound engineers, Marcel, who's and they're speaking Dutch. And so that's why she says, no, Dutch, because she's asking, like, what language are you guys speaking? No. And they said, you want us to switch? And she says, no, Dutch. And then the song just comes out, which I think is amazing that she can do that. And amazing, too, that it gets on the album when she's got, as many B-sides for this album as there are songs on the album. And then I absolutely love Voodoo. It's, for me, it's a nod to Jimi Hendrix. And it's just got that groove. And Honey, We're Recovering Christians, or Christians, as she says. And then Damage is a great song. And Twinkle is not. Twinkle is, well, that's the skippable for me on this album. I'm over it. A lovely song, but it's a little discordant for me. But yeah, I think it's a great song. And at the time when it first came out, it turned a lot of fans off because, I mean, you can kind of look at her albums in triplets, because they kind of work sonically together as triplets. But Peleus was so different from what she was doing with Under the Pink. And there's songs, when they did the reissue, you have songs like Walk to Dublin, which was, she just got a little thing in her head. That song is like crazy and was to be the lead from the album. And it's just, I'm like, man, if she had done that, that would have positioned her to like Bjork status. So you can find Walk to Dublin on a piano, but it's Demon Tori for sure. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, my number 2 is going to be Little Earthquakes. I mean, it's a really good album. It's really hard to deny that. Crucify, like right off the gate, is like, okay, this will work. Girl is great. Silent All These Years is great. Winter is great. Mean Gun, Little Earthquakes, like it kind of lulls there in, like, I guess the seaside for me a little bit, but it's also one of those things where I know, like, that's just the first listen, and the more I hear those songs, the more I'm going to like them because they're really good. A lot of really interesting production choices on this album, which I know this is the one the record company had the most hand in, and there's multiple sessions with multiple producers, but that's okay, it all ends up being one cohesive piece of art that is really interesting to listen to, especially for a debut album. There's there's hints of it where you can go, okay, yeah, that kind of sounds like 1992, but it's also what kind of timeless. Like, it doesn't matter that it sounds like 1992. Not that was a bad year for music or anything. So, yeah, I'm gonna go Little Earthquakes. It's a really good album. Really
Yeah, I
good.
mean, I gotta wonder with this album if it's part of creating that 1992 sound.
Well, and so I would wonder, especially after the experience of her first album, where you're like purposely kind of doing what the record company wants you to do. There's going to be a little bit of that on this one too, where
Mhm.
like, yeah, obviously, track listing changed, different producers were brought in. Um, there's a whole history of record companies bringing in different mixers, and then the album comes out and the artist is like, that's not my album. I never heard that before. And so, especially an artist like this, where they didn't really know what to do with her. For 1992, it's pretty revolutionary. And
She was on what, Atlantic?
Yeah,
yeah, and then
yeah.
moved to what, Epic, and then moved to Universal, I think it was.
I think she did some on Sony, and now Decca is who puts her out, who distributes her albums, but she's got no contract right now. She's not doing that anymore.
Good for her. Do you know if she owns her masters?
She does.
Yeah, good for her. Awesome.
Yeah,
That is
Peter
awesome.
Gabriel said, "Own your masters," and she said, "Okay."
Yep.
So she got all her masters out in Cornwall,
Okay.
where
Yeah, that's
they record. Yeah, I mean, as a first album, I think she retained a lot of. She went to bat for the album.
mhm.
And so while they came back and said, well, no, this isn't going to work and this isn't going to work, and I can't remember, I could look it up but I'm not going to. Well, Precious Things wasn't on the first track list, and so they were like, no, we need a couple more. And so she went back and she was in London, I think, is where they were doing a lot of the work on this album. And so yeah, I mean, she still retained a lot of, she doesn't say like, oh, this should have been on the album about Little Earthquakes. I think she's really happy with how Little Earthquakes sounds and how it came out. There's other songs where she's like, well, I forgot to put this on, or I'm a ding-a-ling and left this song off. But the record company has had little to no influence on her albums through the years, which is pretty spectacular for an artist.
Yeah.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
Another thing that Little Earthquakes made me think of before we get into our number ones, especially going back to the why can't Tori read phase. It's one of those things where, like, you see artists who will do anything to make it. They're desperate. They'll listen to their managers. They'll listen to the record company, etc. And then sometimes it doesn't work. But if you're like, as a musician, if you're just kind of honest with yourself and write songs that you write without trying to be, top of the pops or the flavor of the week or whatever, it almost always translates.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that not only this album, but this whole career is a true testimony to that. Like, just be yourself and you're going to succeed.
Well, yeah, I mean, she said with Little Earthquakes, when she turned it in, they said, all right, they wanted to replace all the piano with guitar.
Yeah. Because that was 1992.
Yeah,
like,
that is, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'm just going to continue that whole conversation because that's my number one is Little Earthquakes. This album is just every finger in the room is pointing at me. I want to spit in their faces, then I get afraid of what they could bring. Like, that's how you open an album.
Mm-hmm.
Crucify is fantastic. I love the chorus on Girl. Silent All These Years is a top song, period. To go from that to Precious Things is just insane. I want to smash the faces of those beautiful boys, those Christian boys. So You Can Make Me Come, that doesn't make you Jesus. Just fantastic. My little hearing that at such an early age was just like, like Winter is just beautiful. That When You're Gonna Make Up Your Mind part, goosebumps
Mm.
every time. Happy Phantom, we had our little kids again singing this when they were like 5. China's my least favorite on the album, but it's still good. Leather, hell, maybe 2 top songs from the same album. I love this freaking song. Mother, I didn't care for when I was younger, but as I've gotten older, it hits different. Tear in Your Hand, classic Tori. If You Need Me, me and Neil will be hanging out with the Dream King. Me and a Gun, one of, if not the hardest song to ever get through. It's so powerful, raw, honest, emotional. But I love how it is not the closing track. Like,
Mhm.
she didn't leave us on that note. The title track is a perfect closing track. I love this album. Like, it's a 10/10 album.
Yeah.
And shockingly, I think we all have different number ones.
Yeah.
What is your number one, Rose?
Now this is the hot take. Native
That's
Invaders, my number one.
that's interesting.
Yeah. So has it always been my favorite? No.
Since
Clearly. Yeah.
2017,
Okay.
yes.
Since 2017. Yeah. Um, I think what puts it at number one for me, I mean, it's such a strong album. Like when you put it on, you got the headphones on, and it starts with the um, I forget what it is. I talked to John Philip Chenille, who does the orchestration, but it starts with like the clicking on of a speaker. That's the first sound on the album, which I love, and you get this air sound to it. So the production quality is that speaker turns on, and you get the space sound around it. And then, I mean, he's playing a hurdy-gurdy for it. Um, so I think just really Reindeer King, I think, is a really spectacular turnout. Love it as an opener. And then it goes into Wings, which is one of those really challenging songs that turns a lot of people off because it's challenging, because it's not like what else she's doing. I think it's really interesting melody. And then she brings back Broken Arrow with that glam guitar in it. Broken Arrow is absolutely love that song. I love the content of the song. Into Cloud Riders, which is, I mean, fantastic. Up the Creek, and just the playing on Up the Creek, into Breakaway. I mean, this is another really beautifully sequenced album where I don't skip songs on the album. Chocolate Song would be the skippable, but it's bookended by Wildwood and Bang. And then Climb. And Climb for me is a continuation of Girl from Little Earthquakes. She got these songs that just kind of form these song lines with each other. So Girl and Climb together are just really stunning. Bats, I love. Benjamin. I mean, there's the whole album. Mary's Eyes, and it's got a cohesive sonic sound, a cohesive like production background for me. And then Tori is the one artist, like when I write, because I do a lot of writing, it's the only music I can put on that doesn't distract me from what I'm doing. So the other thing that really ties me to this album is, well, where I was in my life. So Reindeer King really speaks to me because in the fall after the album came out, I had a really bad car accident and sort of head injury, and just bad head injury, and what that does to your brain. And there's my life before the car accident, my life afterwards. Everything's different. but then I wrote a book, and this was constantly on the loop. So this is probably the album I've listened to the most, because I, put the headphones on and I'd write to this album. And if I'm going to listen to Tori, this is the album that I turn on. I just really think I absolutely love this album. I can't say enough good things about it.
Cool. I love those late game changer albums.
Yeah.
That just all of a sudden, like, oh, here's an artist that I loved, and they're still putting out their best work.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, for a long time, we would just say, oh, her most recent album is my favorite. That's what I'm listening to the most.
Very cool.
Yeah, I need to listen to that one more. I think that was in my notes. I was like, I just gotta listen to this more and more. All right, Tim, let's see, what have you got left?
Oh, apparently Under the Pink is a hot take.
Oh, wow.
Man, I thought that she took everything from Little Earthquakes and improved on it. Honestly, the second album is always kind of dicey, especially when the first one does really well, and like it starts off, just Tori and the piano, let's go, and then God is incredible. I really liked The Waitress a lot. That's just an awesome song. It's hard to deny Cornflake Girl. Like every time I hear that song, it's just great. And then Icicle was really cool. Space Dog was really good. It was unexpected and also welcomed. Just a great album. Solid front to back. Yeah, I could see where, like, with the Boys to Pele, where fans started dropping off or whatever, because it wasn't like the sound. And I'm always all for that. I love experimentation. Bands that just put out the same album over and over again kind of end up boring me. And this is definitely not that. And yeah, I think that this contains like that youthful exuberance that young artists have, like at the beginning of their careers. Like you still think you could take over the world with your music and all that good stuff. And man, she got close. She got real close.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. I was really enjoyed this album front to back.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, she's, it's definitely, I mean, it's a really strong turnout for a second album.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds, I mean, it's definitely her, but also, she's doing different things, which I think is really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then, that starts the trend throughout the whole career where, like, could have just followed it up with Little Earthquakes Part 2. Medium-sized earthquakes or whatever. And no, we're just we're gonna keep doing what we want to do, and these are the songs I wrote, and these are the ones I think are best for the album, and here we go.
Yeah, she wrote this album in or did most of it in Taos, New Mexico.
Okay.
And I can definitely hear the desert on this album. Like just being from the desert, I can hear it sonically in this album.
Okay.
And yeah, with the exception of Cornflake Girl, which is about female circumcision.
Okay,
right?
I did
Which
not.
Again,
which is why I didn't want to be a cornflake girl, Tim.
Oh yeah. Well.
And she
just knew it was going to be one you didn't use.
Yeah, because it never was a Cornflake Girl. She thought hanging with Raisin Girls was a good solution, and that song is in. She said when she was in London, she was living in an apartment in London, so it comes from when she was doing Little Earthquakes. So she's just such a prolific writer, and they were playing reggae outside the apartment. So Cornflake Girl has that reggae influence to it.
Oh yeah, okay, I could see that.
Yeah, sure. I'm like, once I heard that, I'm like, yeah, I can definitely hear that reggae influence. But, her when she did Why Can't Tori Read, you know, she, towed the party line essentially. And then, she said the muses who give her the music were like, all right, if as long as you honor us, then we'll always show up for you. And I think that's consistent across her body of work, is that, she's like The Beekeeper has Martha's Foolish Ginger on it, which she started writing for Boys for Pele.
Hmm.
And then it shows up, so she's got pieces of a song that she's just noodling with and playing with for years. Or there's a 98 demo, or no, it's 2005. There's a piece that ends up showing, you hear it in a live, someone recorded a sound check, and then you hear it on the Night of Hunters album. So a lot of the music isn't just like, oh, I wrote this for this album specifically. Some of them she did, like Native Invader. She had a whole nother album written and she scrapped it and then wrote Native Invader. And I think,
Interesting. Okay.
yeah, because it was something else was going on. And then, her mother had a stroke, and, she was working on something else. And then the election happened, and
I think
wrote a
I
new,
read that about Ocean to Ocean too. I think she
yeah,
had
and Ocean too, yeah.
almost a whole album done and then switched gears.
Yeah, and switch gears. So, I mean, I think that's really interesting that she's so willing to just, okay, this isn't going to work right now. I need to do something else. So, she's got this massive back catalog that we've never heard of, which would be just amazing to, like, come on.
She needs another box set.
Yeah.
Yeah, she needs to pull a King Gizzard Lizard Wizard and just put out a bunch of albums in 1 year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
looking at this, her biggest gap was what, between Native and Ocean?
Yeah.
18, 19, 20, yeah, 4
Yeah,
years.
and you lose a couple years in there.
Yeah.
With the COVID, yeah. So
Yeah.
With pandemic. Yeah. And in 2020, she released a book.
Okay.
Yeah. So she's constantly doing something. And there was an EP between Native Invader and Ocean to Ocean too, which is a good EP. It's a Christmas EP, and that's actually a good one. I like that one.
okay, yeah, I didn't hear that one yet. I saw it, but I was like, I can't listen to any more Tori that's not required at the moment.
That's fair.
I
That's
start-
fair.
Well, as the new fan, I can't tell you how excited I am that there is more to listen to.
Yeah.
Especially like all the B-sides and stuff. I love B-sides. I think I say that every episode. So, yeah, I can't wait to actually take my time and dive into that. And
Well, there's
yeah.
the B-sides. Then there's Strange Little Girls, which is, I mean, when we talk about experimentation, Strange Little Girls is fantastic for that. And then there's live. And a lot of the songs change significantly live. So, like Pancake from Scarlet's Walk, she mixes in Ohio from Neil Young. So, like, that's part of the song now. And, so she'll start pulling in these other things. When she was doing Space Dog last summer, she mixed in Back to Life from Soul to Soul, which was just really awesome. She's been doing Running Up That Hill, but she's been doing that for a long time. So she pulls in her influences. And, but yeah, each, it's like when we talk, like, oh, I love Hotel, but my favorite version of Hotel is from this tour, when she was doing this with this and playing this piece on the piano and then this piece on the keyboards, where she switched it up. So that conversation among fans is really interesting, because every, oh, well, then this tour she played the whole song on the piano, or this tour she gave that song that organ treatment. So yeah, her catalog, it's really interesting. Some songs live, you're like, oh, this is tops. And then other songs, it's like, oh, I don't. Yeah, like Father Lucifer, I'm not going to listen to the album version. I want to hear the live version, because the live version is so much. I don't like the French horn. Sorry.
her B-sides, they're crazy. Like how many good B-sides she has.
Yeah.
Purple People and
Oh,
Bachelorette
yes.
and Cooling. I guess I didn't know there
Yeah,
was a B.
cooling.
Yeah, Cooling.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good ones.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, ticks all my boxes. Everything I'm looking for in an artist is
Nice.
present here, so I'm excited. Yeah.
So, final thoughts. I guess we kind of just did that.
Yeah.
Um,
Naturally.
Go listen to Tori. That's my
Yeah,
final thought.
yeah. Seriously underrated, not only as a musician and a performer, but as a songwriter. Like all of these albums are just incredible songs. I'm just shocked. You don't see this often. I don't see this often,
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't.
and
Not on this
yeah,
show.
we certainly don't. Um, no, it did. It checked all the boxes.
Yeah, this is what I
Great.
tell people when they find out. They're like, "Really? You're such that massive fan?" I'm like, "Yeah. She's a musician. She's an artist, and it's definitely what you want to hear." And like as somebody who's musically trained, this is what I want to hear. I want to hear the pushing the boundaries. I want to hear the trying new things. I want to hear, and I want to hear all of that. And this, she really fits that bill for me. Or this, the artists that I really love are the artists that were doing that.
Yeah, consistently, even to this day. It's with 30 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, like and subscribe. We're gonna do 2 more Tori videos. We're gonna cover our top songs, and then we're gonna talk about Tori Amos's album art. That's always the funnest. So yeah, be safe, make good decisions.